She didn't lose her job because of her work. She lost it because she showed up as a mother. That line stopped me cold. It wasn't from HR. It wasn't from someone I knew. It was from an email sent by a woman I'd never met who saw one of my videos and decided to share her story. Her name is Morgan. Single mom, trans woman, graphic designer, working remotely, living in Texas, quietly, intentionally. Because sometimes silence is the only way to survive. No Zoom calls, no office chatter, no water cooler politics. She just wanted to work, raise her child, and breathe. Her child, met a boy, was adopted from foster care, a little one who had already been returned by 3 different families. Morgan met him when he couldn't even talk yet, but his eyes already knew too much about being left behind. She wasn't his first mom, just the first one who stayed. And all it took to unravel her life was one appearance at a parent-teacher meeting. She didn't say much, just showed up, like any other mom. But the stares said it all. You don't belong here. 1 week later, her client calls started disappearing. The inbox that used to ping every morning fell silent. Emails ignored. Messages left unread. Then finally, we appreciate your work, but due to restructuring, your services will no longer be needed. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just sat there staring at the screen, like she was asking the universe, why does every step forward feel like a new way to get knocked down? And then she wrote to me, I used to think if I stayed quiet, worked hard, and treated people kindly, the world would let me live. But being a woman in Texas isn't easy. Being a trans woman, harder. Being a single trans mom, that's a revolution just by waking up every day. I read that sentence over and over, and each time it cut deeper, not just for her, but for me. For every parent like us who's just trying to love our children and be called by the right name. Mom, dad, nothing fancy, just human. We're not asking to be special, we're just asking to exist without being punished for it. Morgan didn't send me that letter to vent. She sent it to say one thing. My child doesn't need a perfect mother, he needs a brave one. And I'm trying every day to be that. That line broke something in me. Because this isn't just her story. It's a story of every parent who's been pushed out of a room for daring to show up as themselves. It's the story of kids who grow up flinching because people talk about their families like they're a joke. It's the story of creators whose voices get shadow banned. Not because they're offensive, but because they're too real. We're not looking to rebel. We're just trying to love our kids without fear. But every trip to the grocery store, every school pickup, every time your child says mom or dad in public, it feels like crossing a battlefield. Morgan, if you're hearing this, you may have lost a job, but you haven't lost your fire. You haven't lost your truth. You reminded me why I do this, why I tell these stories. Not for clout, not for clicks, but for that one person sitting alone in their car outside the school gates, wondering if they're strong enough to keep going. This letter is for you. If you've ever held your breath walking into a room, if you've ever asked your child to whisper dad because someone might overhear, then maybe this letter is yours too. If it hits something real in you, share it. Send it to the person who needs to hear. You are not alone. And if you want to hear more stories that speak with honesty, stay. Because no matter who you are, who you love, or how you show up in this world, you belong here. And we're just getting started.